it takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable and reach out. Men are really struggling, right, in some areas. And that includes that area of suicidality. It connects with a lot of people, that there are men who are suffering who are willing to talk about that there are people who know guys in their families, guys that they care about that have experienced either a lot of mental health struggles, guys that they've lost to suicide. And so I think opening up those conversations are so important and so valuable because they meet people in kind of their everyday experience. In my department and really at my university, I'm the only person who focuses on men's health, studies men's health. The opportunity to be a part of the RMS and just learning from other researchers that are doing work that kind of overlaps with mine sometimes, but also is really different than mine. It's just been really exciting and fun and interesting. Yeah, I think that a big part of increasing awareness of men's depression is really by having men tell their stories, and that when men can see guys who look like them, who sound like them, who use language like them, and recognize that, that story looks like mine, that guy was suffering and struggling too, I think that's really important. And then I think also it's really important for men to know that if they're struggling with depression and suicidality, that also it doesn't make them less of a man, right? That if you're struggling with something around your mental health, there's this idea, I think, that decreases your masculinity, that makes you less of a man. That's not the case. It doesn't make you less of a man. Men are on this journey, and that part of that journey is that asking for support during that journey, support if you're struggling, it's okay. I think that it's also important for men to be vulnerable that along the way we struggle, right? That we're suffering. We can't necessarily always keep it together. But I think there's this idea too that if you're vulnerable, you can't also be strong. It's like those are mutually exclusive things that if I'm vulnerable, then I'm no longer kind of strong or courageous. I think there's a great deal of strength in being vulnerable as well, and it takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable and reach out as well. I think a lot of people are confused about what happens in mental health care, just broadly, not just with men. But I think men in particular are just unsure, right, of what happens in mental health care. What do I do there? How do I find it? Who will do it? Where do I go? Those types of things. And so I think our efforts to try and kind of open the curtain and give them information on what it's like and try and make it maybe less daunting, less scary, I think will decrease that barrier or remove barriers as well. On one hand, certainly there are plenty of guys who seek out mental health care. They go into an office, they find a counselor, things like that, right? They kind of navigate that landscape. But I think for many other guys, I think what that looks like is bringing that mental health care to those spaces, those places where they are, right? Bridging that gap. Yeah, I think there are lots of examples of what that could look like. In the U.S., one example is Veteran Services has vet centers where they put these vet centers in communities and they do lots of things. They resource vets, they have events, but they also have mental health clinicians there in the vet centers, right? And so it's bringing that mental health care out into the community. It also could look like, recreational therapy for men, right? Putting healthcare or mental health care for marginalized boys in these communities into their community. It could, mean providing, groups for men at sporting venues, right? For their favorite teams.